All right. What's up, everybody? What's up, innovators, kingdom builders? Welcome to the Hype Pod. This is episode 53.
Wow.
We've had a little bit of a break.
But we're back.
In between, but we're back, and I'm excited.
Back and better, I think.
Yeah, you think so?
Yeah, I think
think
so.
so.
Yeah.
I think sometimes you need a little bit of time to get
break
away.
gives you recharge.
Yeah.
Gives you fresh vision.
And
gives you fresh energy.
And you just know what you're missing when you're away.
That's
Right. I missed you guys.
Right. I missed you.
But let me do a little quick intro. So if you haven't listened to the podcast and this is your first time, this is usually where we talk about that intersection between faith, tech, business, culture. And on the podcast, we have the usual Pastor Adam Smallcomb,
still here,
the global lead pastor of Vive Church.
Oh, that sounds serious.
Yeah.
Sounds heavy.
And then we got myself, Arun, your host, and we have a special guest today, Erik Fortin.
Erik Fortin, the COO of Vive Church.
Glad to be here, guys.
What a treat.
Newly
appointed.
Newly
recruited.
Yeah.
But already changing the game.
Oh, yeah.
I would call him an impact player.
Oh, wow.
You know, when you bring someone out of the bench, out of volunteering, and actually say, hey, we're going to give you salary. Can you produce things? And right off the bench, impact.
Awesome. And we're gonna get into it. I mean, that's a really big intro.
That.
Yeah.
But before we go into your background, we haven't just been away. You've been doing HypeCon Dubai with the Hype Network.
That's right.
Can you just give us a recap? Because we haven't had an episode since.
There has been so much that's been going on. We've been busy. It's not, let me just let everyone know, we haven't just been vacationing.
Exactly.
We haven't been relaxing, just twiddling our thumbs. We've been builder mode. I was definitely in Hype Dubai. What a great event that was. Shout out to Pastor Ben. He pulled off an amazing event, worked with Pastors Alessandro and Izzy there. We made some great connections, accelerated the team. And we've now got ambassadors in Hype. We've got a representation of Hype Network out there in Dubai. And I think you were in Dubai just the week after.
The week after for Crypto Conference.
For CryptoCon.
Yeah.
And man, what a great city, huh? That was your first time?
That was my first time.
What was your impressions?
Extremely hot. But if you're indoors, probably one of the best places to be. When you're
There's
indoors.
no need to go outdoors.
There's no need to go. It really is no need to go outdoors.
You got the mall.
Yeah.
It's massive.
Huge.
You skydived?
Yes.
What?
So funniest story. I gotta say it.
You gotta tell us.
I was an episode or two before I left for Dubai. We talk about skydiving and going through it. I hadn't told my mom yet. She listened to the podcast. Then she calls me later, and then she's freaking out about
she
me.
didn't want you to.
Yeah, did not want me to do skydiving, and I was gonna tell her, eventually after I landed safely.
By
the way, I did skydiving. Yeah. But then she finds out, and then she goes through this whole thing about not wanting to do it. I already booked the ticket, so I was like,
the most impressive thing is that your mom listens to this podcast.
Yeah, that was the story.
Shout
actually.
That's so good. Hey, Mom.
But just so you know, don't reveal anything on the podcast.
Yeah, exactly.
People might be listening.
Your mom
might.
Yeah.
But it was fantastic. Probably one of the most exhilarating experiences of my life. Just seeing the Palm Islands. Probably the coolest thing about that place is everything's man-made.
Oh, it's crazy.
They make an entire Palm Island. Did you see the World Islands?
Yeah, it's hard to wrap your mind around.
It really is.
Just the development. You go up into the Burj Khalifa and you get to see the before and after. This beautiful, I guess it's a telescope that you can switch modes and you can switch it to what it looked like before.
Wow. Oh, cool.
And it switches to what it is now. And so everywhere you look, you can see when it was just desert.
Yeah.
And then now like this huge city. It's just fascinating.
Yeah, it really, really is. I mean, we're going to talk about operations and all that kind of stuff on this podcast, but the scale at which and the speed at which they can build, whatever you have to say about that, it really is remarkable what they do. But tell us more about Dubai and
Dubai's good.
HypeCon.
I mean, we've had the HypeCon there, and I mean, what I'm actually excited about is HypeCon that's coming up in a couple of weeks in Silicon Valley. So, Amen Conference. We are at the time of this recording 21 days away, 3 weeks out from our annual Amen West Coast Revival Conference. Probably one of my favorite things we do. I'll probably say the favorite thing for me that we get to do. The whole global family comes together. We paired it over the last couple of years with HypeCon during the day, and we've got some cool stuff going on. I don't want to reveal too much, but we're building a whole Hype house again. It's going to be just an innovation, entrepreneurial cross-section of faith and leaders. And I would just say, if you're hearing this, get out. Just come out to the Silicon Valley, meet some of the cool people. Get to meet Arun. He'll be there.
Yep.
And I think it's just going to be a fun time.
Yeah, and just a reminder, it's encouraged to be a Hype member, but you don't have to be to come to HypeCon.
You don't have to be a Hype member.
Yeah.
Why would you not want to be?
Right.
But we're just going to take everybody who has innovation flowing through their veins.
Yeah, exactly. But come out, and maybe you'll get the itch for why you want to be a Hype member.
Yes.
And speaking of that, we've actually had a conversation about your past and how you joined to become the CEO of Vive. But maybe you can give a little background to the HypePod audience.
Let us get to know Erik.
Yeah,
sure
about how you got here.
Yeah. Well, just first off, just want to say thank you for the opportunity to be on here. Having been on the other side and listening to and enjoying these podcasts, my wife Sarah is a huge fan. So she got me onto it. We're a huge fan of Sarah.
Yeah, Sarah's the best, honestly.
But she got me onto it, and we've been listening together on long drives. And to be on the other side of this, it almost feels surreal now. So super excited to be here, and hopefully I'll contribute to a good one here. But yeah, my background, it's crazy because grew up in the Bay Area, one of the few people who was born and raised here.
Yes, very rare.
Yeah, I know, super rare. We're like unicorns.
Exactly.
It's great. Not like the good exit type of unicorns. We're more like dinosaurs. But I really think that it was an awesome place to grow up. I mean, I always try to tell people hey, the stories I could tell you of what this place used to look like when it was cherry orchards and just fruit orchards.
Very similar to Dubai.
Yeah. Yeah. Speaking of man-made, I heard that they actually make weather there. They're able to do something with the weather.
Cloud seeding.
Cloud seeding. Yeah.
They're creating an entire forest to lower the temperature of Dubai, which is.
It's just vision.
It's crazy. Yeah, it is.
It's amazing. Yeah. We'll do that here someday.
Yeah, sure.
We'll cloud seed over Leghorn here. But yeah, no. So born and raised in the Bay Area. After college, I went to study business, and I thought I was actually going to go follow my dad's footsteps, pretty much because I had no idea what I was going to do.
Right.
So I said, I could go be a police officer like my dad.
Right.
Made the decision. I actually still have the papers in my closet from when I got into the process to join. Wow. And it's like, congratulations, Mr. Fortin, on getting to the next step of the public safety officer and training process. And then right as I got there, my mom sits me down. She says, Erik, first person to graduate with a degree in the family, try something else before. And if it doesn't work out, then you could go be a cop all you want.
Way to go.
Hold guns and, pepper spray and all that stuff. So anyway, sat down, started applying to tech jobs, and would have never guessed that my first real tech job out of school would have been at this little company in 2007 that had about, I think, 10 to 15 million users at the time, called Facebook.
Oh, wow.
So started my career there. At the time, we knew we used it.
2007's early.
Yeah, that was early.
Yeah.
I think I was telling Arun this earlier, but I don't know the exact, but I think I was around employee number 180 over there.
So cool.
It was we were literally in just a couple small buildings in downtown Palo Alto, University Avenue, and then Hamilton one over was my building. But started my career there. Had some good years on their they called it the customer support team back then. And this is back when people would reach out to us saying, "Hey, can you reset my password, please?" And it was like, "Wow, that's incredible." And then by I'd say couple years in, they decided they wanted to go open up a remote operations office. So people working on online operations, supporting users, supporting advertisers, developers. And they said pretty much, hey, we want to build a presence in Austin. So I said, oh, that sounds like fun. Let me go to some place that I've never been to. Also scorching hot there.
Right.
Although I don't know if it's Dubai level heat, but it's pretty hot.
Right.
Yeah, it's nasty.
It's like living in a dog's mouth. It smells. It's like super humid. But yeah, so
I've not heard.
Yeah, but the food's really good. Yeah, the food's good. But no, they said, we're going to open this up, and God in his strange sense of humor said, hey, go ahead and go to Austin. So I got selected to go build the office there.
Wow. I've been to that office.
Oh, have you?
Yeah. The Facebook office downtown.
Yeah, we did that in 2010. So what you saw was probably a lot different than what it was back then.
I can't remember what floor I was in, but it was high security getting in there.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah. You got to do like a fingerprint, blood sample, like everything. Yeah, that's great.
You have to do that saliva.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's great. But yeah, we started 6 people in that office.
Wow.
We started as a landing team of 6, and by the time I left, about 3 years almost after starting, we were at I think 200 people.
Wow.
And now I've heard that at least pre-pandemic, I think they're about 1,000 now, which is kind of crazy, somewhere around there. And they have multiple campuses, so we were just one part of a floor, and then we went to 2 floors, then 3 floors, and then I think they took over that building.
The whole building,
and then I think they got another campus up north near the Domain. So yeah, amazing to just see the growth there.
Yes.
But I think at that point really just fell in love with the notion of really helping people get to their aha moment, right? Whether that's helping customers, whether it's helping people that I met at a job fair, who were just getting out of college and saying, oh, I really want to come work here, and seeing them get to go on and just have amazing careers. So really that just became a passion of mine.
What was the environment like back then? I think Facebook right now, or Meta, is so corporate.
Yeah.
But back then, was it like running and gunning? Was it cowboyish? Was it kind of like startup mentality still?
Yeah, I would say it was. I think that the one thing I always tell people is we had a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun. This is before it was obviously
still had
the
the college
giant monolithic.
vibe.
Yeah, college vibe. A lot of people coming out of Stanford University since they were right up the street. And I think the cool part is there was a certain degree of humility that was there. We knew that we were working on something that could become huge, but we also knew that, hey, we could also really mess this up, right? So we're going to bring everything we can. We're not going to undermine like the level of what we have here, and we're just going to do everything we can to have fun, but make a really good product that a lot of people can use. So yeah, that was a lot of fun.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
So after Facebook, kind of just got on that journey. I had a director there. She would always say, hey, what is that 10% of your day in interviews? She would say, tell me about the 10% of your day where you're just in the zone. What are you doing and what it brings you into the zone there? Like, where are you just operating at 110%? And I kind of took that. I said, okay, well, if that's something that I'm always striving for, then how do I make that 10% of my day a greater part of my day? How do I make that 20% of my day, 30% of my day? And that really kicked off this career journey of like, okay, any opportunity I find, I want to find the opportunity to grow people and to manage a team potentially someday and do what I did in Austin. So I went to Square. Square was building out their support team at the time. Just really got to work with them, helped them build out some of their practices for scaling. Specifically, I think it was around like quality, recruiting, finding new people for the team.
Is this still in Austin?
No, I actually flew back to San Francisco. Great call. Yeah. So I went back to San Francisco, started working there. It was a rocket ride from the minute I got there. It was amazing. It was interesting going from like Facebook with social media all the way into like fintech. And at the time, Square was literally just an app on a phone and a card reader.
That's right.
And that's all it was.
But
now
it's
like a full suite. Oh yeah. I mean, it was cool too because we went from working with users to working with merchants. So people who were using Square to literally build their business and support their livelihood, right? Small businesses.
So when was this? 2012.
2012. Yeah. So 2012 to about 2014, I worked there. And it's funny because I'd say 6 months into my time there, they found out what I did in Austin. They said, hey, we want to send somebody to Atlanta. What should we look for? Like asking me like, hey, like, okay, like, if we were to find somebody, what should we look for? Yeah. And I was like, oh yeah, this and this. I'm like, are you guys punking me now? Like, are you going to ask me? So literally like, yeah, like, so interview with them, had one of the shortest interviews with somebody. It was crazy. He literally said, okay, why are you excited to go? What are you going to bring that nobody else will? Yeah. Any questions? And it was a high ranking person at the company. So I was literally like scared. I was like, okay, like this crazy, sweaty palms. But yeah, that was one of the craziest interviews I ever had. So literally 6 months after coming back to
Your answers must have been really
good.
good. You're kind of bearing the lead here, but you must have some good answers.
Well, that's been like the other part. So in Austin and in multiple jobs, one of my favorite part was also doing the recruiting. So when we went to Austin, that's where I really honed the skills about interviewing. It was like, I think 8 hours of my day for the first 6 months were just interviewing, like 40 hours a week of straight interviews, going to colleges, talking in front of groups, being like, this is cool, come join us. But then it was also different, right? You didn't have all these other tech companies when it first started, and it wasn't like, everybody vying for the same talent.
Right.
But yeah, so anyway, so Square, do that interview, literally was only in San Francisco for 6 months before they shipped me out to Atlanta. Went out to Atlanta, built a team, albeit a bit smaller of a team, and then was there for a while, and then they split that team in between New York and San Francisco, and then I went to actually, oh gosh, where was that? Dropbox. I went to Dropbox after that in about 2014. And I had a mentor who said, you really seem to love the people aspect of this. So I said, great, yeah, I love it. And he said, why don't you go try doing HR? So I said, all right, let's try it. So started off as a coordinator, doing things like global mobility, shipping people around the world to, open new offices, do what I had done. And then I took over contingent workforce, working on that. Bunch of boring stuff, essentially just signing papers, making sure they get computers, but really cool people you get to work with. And then about 6 months into that, they say, hey, we're having a really hard time finding HR business partners. And if you don't know, an HR business partner, that's pretty much like I would say like one of the biggest roles within the HR organization. They're the people who partner with the different teams in a company. So, maybe at Facebook or others, you might have an HR business partner that sits alongside, go-to-market, right? Sales, marketing, that type of stuff. So, they said, would you like to be an HR VP? And I'm looking at the job description. It says, okay, HR VP, you need about 8 years of experience to do this job. And I said, are you guys sure you know what you're doing, right? Like, oh yeah, that's fine. Come to find out their hiring bar, and this is not a flex, but their hiring bar was was so high that they couldn't get anybody through the gate. So it just became like an all hands on deck emergency. So I'm thinking, okay, HRBP, you're probably going to give me one team, get my training wheels on. This is going to be great. It's going to be fine. It's not going to be that crazy. They said, no, we're going to give you GNA, which is general administrative, which essentially was any team that wasn't engineering, product design, or I think, what was the other one? EPD. Yeah, it was pretty much any team that was not engineering, product, and design. So probably like 400 people at the organization at that time. So it was literally just
You're
like
in the deep end.
Oh yeah, way in the deep end. Like, literally water was up to my chin. So, but it was a great experience. I think there are jobs that I really associate with getting experience that I think has really helped me even further into my career. And I think for whatever reason, supporting the internal employees versus supporting the external customers, it's almost like a whole new skill set, right? Because you're literally learning how to set expectations. You're learning how to like really work with the system.
Who's harder?
Exactly. Wait, who's hotter?
Is it harder?
Oh, harder. Yeah.
Do you speak Australian?
Yeah, I don't.
Who's harder to work with, the customer or the employees?
I think it all depends. Customers is kind of like a short burst. Like, you're literally just maybe having 1, 2, 3 interactions with the customer. But with HR, it's like literally they sit next to you and they're like, hey, like, oh, we're about to come into our performance season. I know this is the max for salary increase, but I think it should actually be this. Why won't you entertain it? It's like, okay, cool. And then, a lot of it was kind of the other side of it. You're doing investigations, or like, somebody thinks like, hey, we have to part ways with this person. It's like really making sure that we're doing everything correct, right? We're really, even in situations where their termination might happen, you're doing your due diligence of giving a good experience even in that, right?
What is your church experience through all of these seasons?
So the incredible part is I grew up going to Christian schools, elementary all the way through high school. Shout out King's Academy.
Wow,
2000 class of
You're
2K.
local.
Oh yeah, like I said, we're unicorns. But no, so went to Christian schools, accepted Christ when I was, when was that? I went to Hume Lake in 1997 and accepted Christ there. But
that's really a hotbed for salvation, that place.
Oh yeah, and they do a good job. They know what they're doing. So accepted Christ, but I never really went to church. Never really went to church regularly. It wasn't until
so
I
you're
actually
saved but not yet a Christian. Got it?
Yeah, not walking with the Lord. And I knew Jesus, but I wasn't walking with him. So anyway, end up going to Austin. And incidentally enough, in Austin, even though, quite frankly, I was not living the godly lifestyle, I also said, you're in a new place. Maybe it's time to try to start some new habits. And one of those habits was actually, hey, let's try going to church and seeing what's out there. Found a church in Austin. And one thing I loved about it was the pastor there, he was this Southern Baptist guy, talked about football, barbecue, but he was extremely gregarious. Like, he was really just like, he knew how to connect with people. He was very charismatic, which I never experienced. Like, I had gone to like church things here and there, but really that attracted me, and that really just kind of kept bringing me in. And the Lord.
What was that church? Do you remember the name?
It was called Lake Hills Church.
Big shout out to Lake Hills
Church.
Pastor Mac Richard. I still catch us every once in a while.
Go,
so they're still doing it since '97. But yeah, that was where I first started going to church. When I came back to the Bay Area after coming from Atlanta, a friend introduced me to a church out there in San Jose called Awakening. Started going to that church, and started going regularly, and that's where I really started serving. So I said, okay, I want to have a bigger part of this. God, show me what that is. Now, I
think that was at one point like a young adults ministry that merged into a church. Is that correct?
Yes, that's what it was. I think they were part of, I think it was part of Venture. I think they were the youth wing of Venture, because
I think so.
Pastor Ryan Ingram is the pastor there, and his dad is Pastor Chip Ingram.
Yes.
He's like living on the Edge Ministries and doing that type of stuff.
That's right.
But so great church. Again, the pastor was pretty, not as charismatic, but he definitely had talked about a lot of the issues that I was facing as a young. Well, there was nothing young about it at that time, but no, he really good. And then for whatever reason, I was living in San Jose at the time. Kind of put the proverbial cart before the horse. Bought my first house in San Jose, which I sold like an idiot. But sold that. And the reason I sold it was because I was like, okay, I'm a single guy, and I literally see just like baby strollers outside of my window in Willow Glen like all the time. So I'm like, I need to get out of here. I need to break out. Like, this is wild. So I ended up moving to Oakland, California. Now in Oakland, which I fell in love with, I was like, I don't know if I could ever love another city like Austin. But I fell in love with Oakland, California. It was the one part of the Bay up until that time I had not lived in.
Yep.
And, move in there, and I was still going to church in San Jose.
Yep.
And part of my testimony is there was an event that happened in my life where God really said, hey, you could go this way or this way, but if you decide to follow me, there's some things that you need to change that are really going to bring you into what I have for you. And one part of that was community. So he said, okay, you're living in Oakland, but you're driving down on Sunday to go to church, and you're not seeing these people for any part of the week. Wow. And then literally, as soon as I made that decision and had that prayer, I was on Facebook, and a friend of mine's a photographer, and he took a picture. I think it was the interest night for Vive Oakland. Oh, wow. And he said, he just posted one picture, and he said, Oakland, you're amazing. And I said, oh yeah, like where is this, AJ? His name's AJ Fay. Yeah. And he said, yeah. I said, where is this? And he said, oh, it's this new church that's opening up in Oakland. It's called Vive. So I go to the website, get on the website, looking it up. It says coming soon, Oakland. And I was like, oh, okay, maybe they're about to start up. So I reached out to the email, and someone reached back out to me, Pastor Brittany Grellman. She reached out to me. She said, like, oh yeah, like we're doing a soft opening. Showed up, and literally like that was how I got to Vive. I know that's not what you asked, but that's kind of like the church story as we got to this area.
I feel like that's kind of where we're going, because you went from there, your first instance of Vive, and then you wanted this job as the COO. Like it was a dream job, you were saying. Tell us a little bit more of how you got from just showing up at interest night to now being the COO of Vive Church.
I mean,
that's a great question.
That's crazy.
How much time do we got? No, I'm just kidding. No, I mean, it's interesting because when I think of this church, and I told Pastor Andrew in my interview, I said, this is my dream shot. And it's like, you could look at my resume. God's blessed me with a lot of opportunities working for these companies, Facebook Square, Dropbox, Uber, Visco, Ramp, and
Okay. No, keep going.
Yeah, keep going. So had the opportunity to to really work at all those companies, but really what I saw was like, okay, I'm getting the opportunity to really build all these skills. And I got to a place, quite frankly, where I was like, okay, like I feel like I kind of done most of what I'm going to do in the tech space. Even though it's growing, I've built teams of places. I've seen people go off and like start companies that have been successful that I helped bring on to and really I was like, okay, God, what else can I do? Yeah. And I actually got to a season, and shout out to Hype. One experience was I was out of a job for a little bit, and I was starting to feel, quite frankly, just washed up. I was feeling washed up. I'm like, almost, I think I was 40 at the time. And I'm like, man, no, that is no disrespect to any 40-year-old, but in our industry, but I was kind of feeling like, man, like I've been out of work for a while. Maybe it's just my time to figure out something else. But I go to a Hype event. I believe it was HypeCon in either 23 or 24. Okay. And walking around, and they had the tags to say like, hey, like, what's your name and where do you work? And I just put fun employed. And somebody saw that, and they started talking to me. He's like, oh, like, well, what do you normally do? And I talked to this person. I think he had just started an AI company, an AI company in the AI space. And he tells me just a little bit about his business, like a little snippet. And immediately I start talking to him like, oh, so you must be in this space, and these must be the competitors, and this must be kind of like your strategic areas. Right. And he just looks at me in shock, and he's like, how did you know all that? I just told you like a little bit. And he said, you have a gift. And I say that because really it brought me, God used that event and that person to really kind of bring me back up and say, you know what, I actually do have a lot to offer, good. I think. Yeah. And after that, I actually ended up getting the job at Ramp, which I was only at for a short while. Yep. But after coming out of Ramp, it was like, okay, God, I'm going to surrender this to you. I feel like I've been, really trying to search for these opportunities for company name or finances, like trying to find a place that's going to, really just have a chance of blowing up. But I think I need to focus on the right things. Yeah. And God really convicted me, talked with a few friends, and he said, there's going to be an opportunity that comes up that may not be what you're used to, but it is going to be something that I am calling you to do. And I think you spoke at the Real Men's Ranch night. You said you're going to have to make a decision that's going to require a lot of faith. Wow. So then Pastor Andrew, just out of nowhere, reaches out to me. He says like, hey, I want to, can you talk to us a little bit about ops? Like we're expanding, and would you just tell us a little bit about what you know? Like, absolutely. Like, would love to help the church in any way I can. So after that, he says, hey, we're hiring for a COO role. And he said, do you want to come talk? I'm like, yep. 100%. Roger that. Like, let's go. Let's go do this. So went into the interview, and incidentally enough, probably one of the longest interviews I've ever done. We sat down for, I think
that's Indians for you.
Yeah. We got to know,
But hour and 40 minutes. And I got to say, I was really, I was admiring just like the level of intentionality behind the questions that were drafted up, right? They really brought out things. It wasn't just, oh, okay, well, what's your knowledge of this? It was like, no, what have you done when it comes to this area? Or like, how would you reply to this and tell me about a specific embodiment that you've seen in your career? So that impressed me. But I really think what put it all together was I fully believe that all those 18 years, even in the jobs where I was like, rough or I wasn't really feeling it, I still learned skills that I think have been able to translate and will continue to be able to translate to this role as COO.
Yeah.
And really what I'm the most excited about is, obviously the expansion part is amazing, right?
Fun.
But I think of what this ministry has been to my own life. This ministry has been so impactful, not just to my life, but my wife's life. And obviously we have our son, and it's even, like 1 week of him being in Royal Kids during church planning school, his teachers at preschool were already like, oh my goodness, like he's talking differently. He's like, much more intelligent. But anyway, I say that to say when the opportunity presented itself, the reason this is a dream shot is because I get to bring that experience that God has blessed me with and actually come help build the kingdom. And quite frankly, 1 month in, it's everything I expected it to be and more. So, really just excited and appreciate you for the nod to bring me on the journey.
Eric is
cool
killing
story.
the game.
Yeah.
He's,
What a cool, let me tell you two things. First
Yeah.
off, connecting the dots from the men's ranch night to that moment, what a powerful moment.
Yeah.
I didn't even know this part of it. And then to hear that
I didn't
translated.
even connect
Yeah.
that part of it. Because at the ranch night, that was like a couple months ago.
Yeah.
And I forgot that I'd given you that word.
Yeah.
And at the time, we hadn't even decided that we need a COO.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy. That is wild. Okay.
That is wild. But yeah,
God is good.
Wait, so
good.
because I know we have a little bit of time left, but this whole podcast was meant to be around this idea of how do you build a church? And then after we talked, I've kind of been going through this whole kind of incident with my work, like incident response on Memorial Day.
Yep.
I was watching American Manhunt, the Osama bin Laden story, which by the way, everybody should watch.
I've got that on my watch list.
Unbelievable
It's really
documentary,
is.
unbelievable documentary. But it's this
Netflix.
whole idea of what do you do during an incident response? And it was everything I've been thinking about, like just with my team at my work, it's really what you do before the incident. It's how you build the team, how you set it up, the foundation that you provide so that when that does come, you'll be able to handle it with such ease, right?
Yeah.
And so with what you guys are doing, and I want to turn the question to you, Pastor Adam.
Oh, okay.
You've made a big decision here to do the C-suite for Vive Church. Talk to a little bit more about that, why you decided to go through this kind of change where now you're hiring these roles for Vive Church.
Yeah, I think, I just think what you just said was super brilliant, very insightful. Like the way that you are prepared in what your structure, and you don't always just have to hit a ceiling before you bring change. I think that's one way to implement change is when you hit a ceiling and you're like, man, we've got to figure this out. I think what for us, I wouldn't say we've hit a ceiling at Vive Church, but we've launched a vision that projects many ceilings that we're going to hit. And so for me, knowing the capacity of how we've built the church in many ways over the last 14 years, and 15 locations, it's really been a combination of Holy Spirit led, but mum and pop style, where we're just going to send missionaries and we're going to send them out there and, support them as best we can, but kind of say, hey, good luck.
Yeah.
But really with a vision that we've set of 100 locations, that's going to cause us to be our best, to actually implement intelligent people who know how to scale, who know how to empower, and to really understand that when you go to that scale, there's different stakes. You can't just wing it and support a couple of campuses if they don't make budget. You've got to actually have a system of success that doesn't sink the ship. And so for us, that really made me pause and go, what are we going to build? How do we build this? What are the key components that we need? And it's not just about a bunch of campus pastors. We really need a global team that actually honors every gift giver to know that because the church is built through sacrifice and donations.
Yes.
So I want the church to know that every dollar is going to be spent with strategy and implementation for kingdom impact. And so that's when we realized, man, we need to structure this out.
Yeah.
And that will actually bring support to the expansion and to the continued growth of the church.
Yeah, I like that. So one thing that we usually talk about on the pod is how do you bring kingdom principles into your business? And I think this is kind of the reverse, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but it's like, how do you bring business principles into the church?
No, it's exactly reverse.
And then do it in the right way, right? And so I think it's one thing that kind of scares a lot of people that are in the church when they see the two worlds collide, because they seem like they should be at like...
I think it has in the past.
Yeah,
I think it's like, let's keep spiritual different from business.
Right.
But I think what maybe mainly our church here in the Silicon Valley, everyone is in both spaces in our church. And so it's a cohesion of understanding. You've got people, just to give people context if they don't know the context of Vive, we've got technologists, innovators, we've got business leaders. And so they live in the world of global scaling operations, and then to kind of sit in the church space and see it run old school, it's probably frustrating.
Yeah.
You know, hey, we could do this, we could do that. So, you know, really bringing that mindset in, I think it's going to actually scale the church.
Oh, I 100% agree. I think one of the worst things you can do is you have these talents that you have at the church, but you're too scared to use it because of whatever preconceived notions that you have about it. But it's not, that's a tool, right?
Correct.
If you use it in the right way, you can actually achieve what you're looking to achieve, which is growth and like scale, right? In a really healthy way. And so now I'll turn it over to you as now the new CEO of Vive Church. Like, where do you see your role in making sure that you really do build a healthy foundation as we try to scale?
That is a great question. You know, I think from day one of the things I knew that I needed to do is just really set us up for growth, right? So really just set us up for growth. And one of the ways that I did that is, okay, let's all get us in the same place when it comes to collaboration. So, I mean, stuff that might just seem like common knowledge, like every job in the last 10 years I went to had Slack set up already. When I come to Vive, they have Slack, but the question is are they actually leveraging it? Are they using the communication tools and the collaboration tools to the fullest?
Using 45 different tools.
I know, right? So the first thing I said is like, let's get us all in the same place. Let's just, you know, get us all in the same place. Let's make sure we know how to collaborate. Let's set the ground rules for that. And then it was things like, okay, like, you know, let's make sure we have good visibility and transparency. People are working on a lot of stuff. Let's get that to the forefront. Let's have people share what they're working on, because what that's going to do is it's going to really give us at a high level. It's like, hey, are we moving in the right direction? Are we applying our efforts to the right direction as well? And then also, are there opportunities for collaboration that we don't see? Now, we're a global church, right? We're a global church. You have people as far away as Saigon and as close to San Jose. So really, how do we make sure that we aren't duplicating efforts? How do we make sure that we're taking every opportunity we can to really just collaborate when we need to? And then, you know, the other thing is just really, how do we get good data? And this is something I'm actually really passionate about, is I think we have data here. We're a church. We take actions that churn up data. The question is how do we get all that data in the same place? Because when you get the data in the same place, that's when you could really start doing cool stuff with it. You could start answering questions. You can start doing visualizations. You could say, okay, you know, how are we looking at church health? What does church health even mean when we look at these numbers? The thing I'm actually really excited about is we're working on, can we share Ministry Hub? Can we talk about that?
Yeah.
So Ministry Hub is really exciting because I was talking with Pastor Jackie and Pastor Ian, and I said, okay, I always think of this as like, you know, small, medium, large, V1, V2, V3. V1 is let's just get the data in a way that we can see it. I think V2 is be able to do things with the data that help us to answer questions so that we can in turn, you know, pull different levers in the business, or the church in this case, to help it grow as we get to 100 locations. What I'm excited about is the third part, because now not only do we have the data, not only do we know how to pull it and get questions, but with 3, we can start having it identify things to us that we didn't even know that we needed to. So it starts identifying, hey, these might be problem areas. This might be areas where you can really kind of dive in for growth. And I'd say another area too is, you know, we have so much experience as we've done this over the last 12 years, right?
Yes.
Or no, 13 years.
14 now.
14 years, yeah. So 14 years, I should have had that. That's my fault. COO, I should have that number. But yeah, so
we'll cut it out. We'll fix it in post.
Okay, yeah, or we could just leave it. No, but 14 years, you know, we have a lot of knowledge.
Yes.
And I really think that one thing I'm excited about is how do we identify those best practices? How do we learn and get us into the experimental mindset? Because we have all these locations. Let's try new things. Let's get campus pastors in the mindset of like, hey, I know these are my rocks. These are these things that I'm working towards. Let's pull on different things and try different things to move these forward. If it works, great. Let's expand it to the region. If it works past the region, let's let's get that to the globe. So really, I'm just excited to see how data works. I want to get us in the experimentation mindset where people just become fanatical about trying new things to really try to push the levers, but ultimately get us closer to our mission, right?
You are experiencing why Erik already in 1 month has got a nickname.
What's the nickname?
It's Erik GPT.
Oh.
He's like Chat GPT in the flesh. Can I jump in and ask, like, what's one of the weirdest things you've experienced by working on church staff?
Weirdest things I've experienced.
I mean, like you're working in tech companies, you're working in these corporate settings. Now you're at the church. Like, I mean, I've only ever worked at the church. What's weird?
People are so nice here.
That's amazing.
People are so nice. I mean, I'm not saying that, you know, everywhere you work, people are jerks, but, you know, I think here, and it's actually kind of the, something I really appreciate coming to life. I know we were in an all hands or staff meeting, and really one thing I put out there, but I almost feel like I didn't need to, was just this notion of giving and receiving feedback. And I think one thing I always used to tell teams that I managed was when you give feedback, you should do so with the sole intent that you want to see that person become better at what it is that they're doing or what they're working on. And similarly, when you receive feedback, you receive it knowing that that person who's giving it to you is giving it to you because they want you to be better.
I like that.
And I really feel like here there was no pretense. You're not finding people trying to just like, get ahead of each other, get on top of each other so that their review is going to look better than theirs. They're going to get a bigger raise and all that stuff. But no, I really think, character is really present here.
Yes.
People bring each other along for the journey. It's not like I'm going to keep this for me so I look really good. It's like, no, like, hey, I'm working on this thing. I actually think you could bring a lot, like what does it look like to have you collaborate with us? So yeah, it's amazing, but it's taken a little bit. I'm like, whoa, like I don't got to be on guard here. Like there's, it's not like jail. Like nobody's trying to steal my biscuit and shank me. But so.
I don't have to have soap on the rope.
Right. So how do you feel about how you want this to kind of like your vision for how this wants to work out? Usually it's the global lead pastor, it's your mission, it kind of gets funneled down. Now you kind of have these leaders all around you that are kind of helping scale this mission.
Yeah.
How do you allow that to be in their hands to scale, but also protect it in a way that in every new campus, it maintains that level of kind of quality and mission?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question in the sense that what I think is you want to be able to have a vision that's really clear, but the journey is up for grabs. How you want to get there and how we look on the way. That's what you want to bring in personalities. You want to bring in feedback. I think for me, I'm by nature quite collaborative. I'm actually not that controlling. I like to just set a general direction and say, how are we going to do it?
Right.
What's it going to look like? Not just even on the C-suite, but from a church component. I actually have always part of the vision. Even the vision wasn't all my idea. It was kingdom builders that we got away, contributors that came into a room. We got up in Tahoe, and we kind of put this together out of what does our church deserve? What kind of vision, what size vision does our church deserve? I had already pitched this idea of 100 locations, but it was that team that came up with the 10 years, the timeline. They time boxed it. Now that put pressure on me. I'm like, okay, well, I mean, if we're all in this together, then we're all responsible as well. And so I think that is, for me, where I feel like having people like Erik and Pastor Andrew, I was talking to Pastor Andrew today. We're literally assembling an Avengers team of global church operations. We've got a few key people in some other roles I can't reveal just yet, but this is kind of like, in my mind, a up and coming tech company would be very jealous of the team that is assembling for the church. And I feel like, why not? Why can't the church have the best and the brightest teams? Why? I think back in the day, it was like the single moms or the retirees that would work at the church. You'd have Ethel in the front office because she's done with working right now. She's supported by, welfare, and so she's going to answer the phones. And that was kind of like who you would have on the church staff. But really, if we've got a crazy vision and we're in a crazy area, we need the best and brightest teams. And I think that wins respect from the church, that we're putting the best at the forefront. Yeah,
I love that. I was talking to you guys about this incident that I was going through at work. But the reason that we've kind of gotten through, we're like nearing the end of it and like the response, the reason we're nearing that point so quickly is because of the team that was hired around us. And it was like every single person like has that mission on them that they don't want to drop the ball as they're going through this. So they'll figure it out along the way. It's not like this is my role and this is the only thing I do. It's this is the mission and this is what I have to do to get us there. And it might expand past your role and all of that. Go into the personnel. You were talking about your past meeting people, liking to do these interviews. What do you see about like the people that you want to bring in on the team? Like what's your values that you want to bring in?
I mean, number one, I think that they just really have to embrace the fact that they're working as part of something that's bigger than themselves. I think when that is something that you really take on, and I even saw this at tech companies, people would come in, they'd have this mindset of like, wow, like they're not just saying, oh, I deserve this job. They're saying, no, I get to work here. And I know that is a pervasive element at the church as well. I think that's one of the characteristics. I really also think like, having that bring others with you mentality. I think that's something that I look for, right? They recognize that, hey, God has gifted people with different gifts. We all make the part of the pie and the different giftings that we have. How do I leverage their talents and skills to really kind of bring them on and make sure that they get the opportunity to not only work on something that's going to, in their giftings that only they have, but also get to see them grow as a result. People that I've had the opportunity to even mentor here in my first month, one of the things I love is getting to sit with them and say, not just do this, but actually, hey, let's look at how this is building up your career. So one day, hopefully you're going to work here for forever. I would like to work here for the rest of my career, but you really get to see them even build up their repertoire of what they're doing here. I also think intellectual curiosity is a big thing, right? So if you were to look at this mic stand, I always frame it this way. And when I would interview people, tell them about the job, they'd say, what do I have to do? I'd say, well, if you could look at this mic stand and say, you could look at it and say, oh, it's perfect. Nothing needs to change about it. But if you have a deep-seated intellectual curiosity, you naturally are going to be looking at this mic stand and thinking, oh, what are the different things I could do to improve it? Maybe we could, make this longer. Maybe we can give there more inputs for change. Really, that intellectual curiosity is a big thing that I've seen in a lot of successful people that I've worked with. And that's something I'm definitely going to look for here as well. Because I think that what we don't want to fall into is this mindset of like, I'm just going to keep doing the same thing because, it might work. We want to get into the place of like, hey, we are really being good stewards of that faith that people have invested into us and going out there and saying, no, we're going to try to just push the envelope.
This is so key because I think when it comes to the tech world, that thinking is automatic. It's almost like to survive, you have to think innovative. You have to have that insight or that technical, inquisitive nature, right? But I think in the church, traditionally, it's been, well, there's a way that the church is done. It's written in the Bible. Paul did it. We're going to do it like that. And you can't venture away from it, which is such an antiquated perspective when God is the greatest creative mind ever and has given us the creative ability to be innovative. Why would we not look at the church, look at the teams, look at the products, look at what we do and think, is there a new way to approach it?
Absolutely.
Oh, actually, this is a really interesting part because I've grown up in an Orthodox church before this where it's very, very traditional. I mean, we didn't even play music, like no instruments. Like depending on the church that you went to, it was like that was like the big thing that you could add to the service. And so like going from that version of church to like all the different versions of church that you'll see around the world, like how do you as a leader of the church think about this aspect of, okay, this is a good way to do innovation, or this isn't the thing that we should do because maybe it does divert too much from maybe what the Bible says. Like, where is that line? And how do you?
I think there is a line, and I think there is maybe more than a line. I think there's a balance, right? There's a balance between what is good traditions that we don't want to venture away from because we want to preach the word. We want to have great doxology. We want to have communion. We want to do what the Lord's commanded us to, but there's a way to do those things in new ways. So it's not like I'm abandoning things. We're just finding new ways to do it. And how do we actually do it in a way that's fresh and current and really fits our community? But this is definitely a tension, I think, in the church world. I feel like there is a tension even with people like who want to criticize, oh, you can't do that. That's not church. I even remember when we first went to Italy, one of the things that God spoke to me, the reason we needed to plant a church in Rome is because the people I was talking to, when they were looking at Vive on Instagram, they were saying, that's not church. And my spirit was like, well, let me show you, know, because you're stuck in a very Catholic, old traditional mindset, and you've canceled out that that's not church. Well, what you've canceled out is how we're going to reach the people that the Catholic Church isn't reaching. And so there is people that haven't been reached that require us to pioneer new ways to reach them. And that's where the church thrives.
This has been an amazing conversation. I feel like I have a lot more to ask you guys. So we might have to do a part two. I think you're going to have to do a part two. We're going to have to bring you back on. I mean, maybe part two will be after a few more months, we can talk about the progress that you've made as well. So,
that'd be fun.
Eric GPT,
where's
I feel
Eric
like,
now?
Where's Eric now? So,
2 months is an eternity in the church.
Exactly. So I'm just really excited. I'm glad that everybody get to see a little bit more about your background and hear more of what you do. You've been great on the podcast.
Yes.
So we're definitely gonna have you back. But if this is, again, your first time listening, or if you're a long time listener, please share, like, subscribe. All the links are in the description box below. And stay tuned for the next episode.
Let's go.
Guys. Awesome.